Welcome to Lady Audaci-TEA. I'm Alex.
And I'm Meredith, and a quick note before we start the show, Alex has dyslexia, so in the words of Luann de Lesseps, be cool. Don't be all uncool about it. All right? Moving on. So
Agreed.
our first premium content episode has dropped. It's our Taylor Swift Eras Tour, Women of the Crown, and we kick things off with Princess Margaret. It's available over on our Patreon, patreon.com/Lady Audaci-TEA. Also, we now have Apple subscriptions, which took me so long to figure out. I was like a boomer on with customer support and Larry trying to help me out. And I'm not going to lie, the episode is pretty dang juicy. Alex wishes a slow death on someone, and I nearly lose my mind. So, just a quick side note, we will have show notes living on our Patreon for free. So, after this episode, if you want to go through our show notes, you can go over to our Patreon. That is free for the public to check out. And we're not announcing our next lady quite yet, but there will be a new episode in July. Another fun Patreon feature. You get this episode a little earlier. So if you're listening right now on Patreon, you might be listening to this before anyone else. So welcome. We are going to drop those one day earlier for you thirsty besties. And then we will drop on our free feed. So we also have next week, we are interviewing Kristen Meisner. I did not realize this woman was such a big deal. Someone on Twitter literally tagged me and was like, "Oh my gosh, you have to talk with Kristen. You guys would be great." And I didn't even look into it. I said, oh yeah, let's link up." And she seemed excited about it. And then I decided to go to her website because that seems smart. And then I started going through her accolades and the podcasts and the books written and the write-ups in major magazines and newspapers and the
She's
television
amazing.
appearances. And I said, "Oh shit. What did I just get myself?" And then the imposter syndrome just crept on in. And
I'm just going to try to stay ignorant.
I'm
just trying to stay ignorant. She's amazing, though. I've noticed her off and on in the community because, since Meghan has started in the royal fold, became a royal, she's been one of the people who vocally throughout have like, no, that's not exactly true. No, you guys are being racist. Like, even if there's a point in here, you guys are just like piling up all this bullshit and racism and misogyny. Like, please stop. So I've been following her through that, and I follow her Instagram, and she's amazing. She is amazing. I love reading her work and her tweets because she's always clarifying things for us, which I love, whether it's Meghan or several other things going on in the world.
I'm a fan, but I'm intimidated. That's what I'm going to say.
Yes.
All right. Also, we are going to have a new format next week. Remember, not next week, next month. Where are we? What is time? And we are going to we're going to have our bananas articles portion at the beginning so we can really talk about the topical issues. And then we're going to go into a topic or two that one or both of us have researched and just have a conversation on it. And then the deep dives will be saved for our premium content. So that's when we really get into the nitty gritty about someone, something, and spend a lot of time on it. So this week, bananas articles for the week is more just like Alex going bananas, because if you saw my text messages the last couple days, girls blowing up my phone.
I've been blowing up voice notes, links. Oh my gosh. It's been a field day. And I think it's obvious for banana articles of the week, we just need to talk about Spotify and everything that has came from it. So Spotify and the Sussex have officially broke up. And I think with the sources talking and a senior exec talking, calling them grifters, I can't help but think, like, if we had the money, this is where we would cue in "We Are Never Getting Back Together" by Taylor Swift, because it's giving that.
Oh my gosh, I was trying to think of a lyric in my head, and then we are really syncing.
Lyrics. We love our lyrics.
Yes.
Okay, you can tell we were on Tumblr during a tie day and, profile. You always needed that one lyric, okay?
Oh my gosh, always.
Okay, so let's start with a little brief history here. Sussex signed in 2020 with Spotify to make exclusive content. It was reportedly anywhere between $15 to $20 million for the deal. There was a teaser on December 15th, 2020. Then there was a holiday episode on December 29th, 2020. Both of those released under the Archetype Audio. Archetypes was released 2 years later on August 23rd, 2022, and that was 12 episodes. Then it was released on June 15th, 2023, that the deal was no more. So as you can see, a ton of content was produced. in that time from the Sussex.
Lots of money made though
Yeah,
off of
okay, but
I
lots
mean,
of money made.
work smarter, not harder.
And I definitely think here, obviously, the breaking up the Spotify deal of what we will get into, I do think it has a lot to do with, well, capitalism and a lot of what we are seeing
You
from
don't say.
streaming.
Just kidding. Just kidding.
But like streaming networks, Netflix, Spotify, Amazon, Disney, all of these people jumped into streaming and they all jumped into exclusive deals. And I think everyone from the celebs to the companies are saying it's just not quite working out. But that doesn't take responsibility away from celebrities like Meghan and Harry, Kim Kardashian, who else is in here? Ava DuVernay.
You got it, girl.
Yes.
You got it. I
Sorry,
love the
you
French
guys, I
word.
totally paused and looked at Meredith for like, yeah,
I'm like, "You
I
keep
did it."
going, sweetie." I'm like, "You got it."
So all of these people did sign these deals, barely made any content, if any, and were able to milk all of this money because they get pretty much paid. Like Megan's probably got paid up to $1 million for every single archetypes episode. So when you're seeing this buzz of like, oh my gosh, they're broke, everything's gonna be crumbling, you guys, it's just obviously none of us know their finances, but from what we know, it's just not true. It's not like she walked away from that deal and didn't make anything. Meghan and Harry didn't get the full reportedly 20 million, but they still walked away with millions. So let's not cry too much for these rich people.
Don't cry for me, Meghan
My
Markle.
God.
Just kidding. But you bring up a good point though that I didn't consider that with bringing on all these exclusive deals, Spotify probably needed to hire more people. And so part of this transition out of exclusive deals of celebs pulling away
Yes,
did lead to some amount of job loss. Not saying
exactly.
Meghan and Harry are responsible for all 200 something people that were laid
No.
off back in January.
Exactly. It's these there's about a dozen, you guys, like a dozen celebrities that they signed between 2019 and 2020. They spent over $1 billion in exclusive deals. So absolutely when these people sign on and then do not bring the work, it's a trickle down effect of that the people that are getting paid low wages get completely screwed over. So while I don't like that most of the headlines I'm seeing want to blame Meghan and Meghan specifically, because it's like people are suddenly forgetting Harry was also a part of this deal. Meghan was just the only one who actually produced something. That is what bugs me because I think it goes back to that like misogynoir and just racism in general. When someone does something bad, it's most likely that the person of color is going to get pointed out and all of that punishment is going to be put on their shoulders because it's easier to punish us for something than say our white peers because hey, we're supposed to be the bad guys. And in
Oh yeah,
particular with
the white prince can do no wrong.
exactly innocent, pure white, black, brown, just the stereotypes say we're the opposite. And I also think with we'll talk about this more later, but with Meghan, it's acceptable to shit on her and question if she's a good person. That mirage that most celebrities and public figures have, anyone from Blake Lively to Kate Middleton, is pretty much non-existent for Meghan. So, to talk about this, though, we're going to go back to February for our headline of the week. We're going to go to a February 18th, 2022 article from the Business Insider. It is titled Spotify Splashy Deals with Stars from Ava DuVernay to Kim Kardashian Make Headlines, Not Podcasts. Insider and leaked deal memos reveal a creative bottleneck, shifting strategy, and internal. You want to say that one for me?
Tumult.
Tumult. Internal
You got it.
tumult.
That was awesome.
Meredith always got my back.
Always, always. I'm your number one fan.
Yes. And you guys, this will be on the show notes for Patreon. So if you're going to read any article out of the articles that we will be posting, this one is the one to read because my goodness, did they predict? And well, the sources were pretty much telling them this is where it was going to lead to. So, for one, they talk about Spotify banking on high profile deals. A quote here says, all told, Spotify has spent significantly more than $1 billion to build out its podcast business, acquiring studios Gimlet, Parcast, and The Ringer, and inking exclusive licensing deals for popular shows including The Joe Rogan Experience, Call Her Daddy, and Dax Shepard's Armchair Expert. This week, it's bolstered its tech capabilities with the acquisitions of Podsights and Chartable. And it should be noted, Joe Rogan, Call Her Daddy, and Dax Shepard's Armchair Expert, people I've seen kind of lean into, well, why aren't they getting axed? That shows how popular they are. people are forgetting is that all of these podcasts were already going before Spotify picked them up, which means they have their own production team. So they do not have to rely on Spotify for production. So people like the Obamas, the Sussex, Kim Kardashian, all of them did not have any podcasts before. So they were relying on them to give them a production team. So there's a little bit of difference there why you're not going to see these big high profile deals there dropped because Spotify doesn't have to produce anything with them.
I
So
did
on
not
top
know
of
that.
that, right, yeah, it's there's so many little things about this that is so easy to lose and just like, oh, Megan's horrible. And then you start getting into it. It's like, oh, these are all, yes, crappy, but very normal practices for what's going
And
on.
honestly, this is not a big deal unless you're Harry and Meghan. Like, it's
No.
it's news because it's Harry and Meghan. It's funny because I was looking into how the Obamas were covered in the Daily Mail, and it was jarring because when the Obamas made the move, and remember, it's not like, let's be clear, it's not like Michelle Obama doesn't experience misogynoir.
Yes.
Let's be very clear. But it was like,
Yes.
yeah, they're gonna move on. It did not have the same
Mm-mm.
antagonizing language as Meghan gets dropped by
Yeah.
Spotify.
And I've said that before. It's interesting because you can't talk about the Obamas like that without getting serious backlash. It is not the same thing for Meghan and Harry. It's a very different reaction. So I think in a way it's kind of like Amber Heard when she was going through her trial. Lindsay Lohan, Britney Spears in the early 2000s. It was acceptable and okay and fun to shit on them. You know, if you want a headline and you want to click, you're going to use their names, especially if you want to spread
Oh,
negativity.
Paris Hilton, not Paris, Perez Hilton was drawing dicks all over
Yes.
these people's faces. If you
And it was
remember Perez
okay.
Hilton,
Yeah, it's okay. They're sluts, right? They party, they're sluts. Like, they deserve this. They want
it was
this.
a
And it's like,
gross time.
it was, and then I see it with Megan again, or like again, Amber Heard. Okay. And sorry, not sorry. I will fight everyone on this one. Okay. Amber Heard. It was like, we have decided she's a villain. They're bitches, and that's all they are. That is
Oh my
absolutely
god,
all there
you
are.
you trapezing into Amber Heard territory is so brave.
I know it is, and y'all, I got my fist up. I'm ready. I am
She's ready.
ready. I will
Please
fight
direct
the
hate
air.
mail. I'm
Okay.
just kidding. I actually I don't know a ton about that case because I purposely stayed away from it, but like yeah, uh lots of
Yeah.
evidence that Johnny Depp is a douchebag in real
Horrible
life.
fucking
Sorry,
person.
not sorry in
And
other
I was,
cases.
yeah, I was fighting for my life in those comments during the trial. For
Oh my
my
god, the
life.
negative
Okay. Because,
comments we're gonna get on this. Please focus on the negative comments you wanna give us about our Meghan part. I mean, we are
yeah,
really what other controversial topic can we talk about right now?
let's talk about it all. No.
Oh my gosh,
But,
mention the
okay.
husbands. It's like the best thing.
And while Amber Heard didn't get a deal, there was others though who did. And also like literally half of these people, I have no idea that they got a Spotify deal, and I'm pretty sure most of them didn't make any content. You have Kim Kardashian, which she signed in 2020. She didn't put anything out till 2022, and there's no word if there will be anything else. I have a feeling her deal will get cut. Jordan Peele, he was cut. I don't think he produced anything. Mark Wahlberg, and there was like a lot of
Wait,
other.
wait. Mark Wahlberg had a podcast
Yes. Yes. I'm just so
about
confused.
what? About what?
How to be a douche and a Christian all at once. Like,
Ooh.
I have feelings about that man, okay? That
Clearly.
racist man who likes to use rap music to better
Yeah, he's
his
not great.
self.
He's not great.
He's not a
He's
good person.
not the ally we really want him to be.
So from what I'm seeing, yeah, Mark Wahlberg, and wait, it looks, no, he never did anything with Spotify. All I can see is something about faith and film, and it's on
Fun.
Sirius XM.
I love
Yes.
I love alliteration.
Right. So, I'm going to safely say that he too did not produce zero for Spotify. And if so, it may have been just one thing. So again, it's like Meghan and Harry, Meghan specifically, are made to be unique in the situation, but they are not. And that, of course, is not me trying to take away responsibility that Meghan and Harry did that rich person thing where they, yes, worked smart, not harder, but that trickle down effect means a bunch of people got screwed over who don't make a quarter of what they do. So, but also this is a really intriguing part too, because since this all has came out, Meghan and Harry sources have pretty much said that they didn't want to do exclusive content. And then there's been like hints in the like Wall Street Journal article and Variety that part of the reason too is they were having conflicts with them when it came to like what they wanted to create, similar to the Obamas. So from that 2022 article, they talk about this. In the quote, it says, "In the world of entertainment, hits are elusive and creating projects and partnerships are often abandoned before anything is made. But sources cited challenges within Spotify, including an ever-evolving strategy, executive turnover, and a reluctance to pull the trigger on production. That creates a particular bottleneck for originals per one dealmaker. Like others who spoke to Insider, this person requested anonymity." Yep, because of
Anonymity.
ongoing
It's okay. Anonymity is a very hard word.
yeah, anonymity because of ongoing business with Spotify. So, and then it goes on to talk about Dawn Ostroff, who reportedly was a huge driving force behind getting H&M signed, along with a lot of the other really big deals that they did. She left Spotify at the beginning of the year when Spotify also announced they'd be doing job cuts in the podcast division. They hadn't said how many yet, but it was like announced there was going to be job cuts and they were changing things, and Dawn was out. So they note her as the person who drags their feet on actually getting stuff made. So a quote from the article. But Ostroff, who is said to wield considerable power over the green light process, is slow to get stuff made once deals are signed, this person said. Gimlet is just now hiring a team to develop its first series with Meghan and Harry's Archwell Audio, which will spotlight high profile women, according to a job posting first reported by the Daily Mail. One dealmaker pointed out that most of the company's star creators have never made podcasts before. Some, like the Sussexes and Obamas, have built their own audio teams. So, mhm.
Yeah,
That's
I kind of it this is what it sounds like to me. This is what I presume. First of all, an exclusivity deal is kind of not smart for a long-term perspective. It doesn't
no,
make sense. It's better to get on, maybe move to Audible like the Obamas, do something like that so you can reach a bigger audience and have more control over what you produce. The other thing is,
exactly.
I bet you WME came in and said, "Megan, I need to see everything you were signing just willy
Mhm.
nilly when y'all first left the royal family. I know you guys were hard on money, but we got to talk
Yeah,
about some of these deals."
right. I
And
know it was a scramble, but honey boo boo.
I am sure he's going, Ari Emanuel and the team are going through every contract that they inked to
Oh,
look at
yes.
what was signed, what was agreed to, and what they're going to renegotiate. That is just business, whether it's right or wrong, mind you.
Yes,
That is business.
exactly.
It's wrong though because of who the people are in the situation.
Exactly. And then during normal business deals, which we are seeing again, the Obamas and many others did after this, it is a big deal. Like I always mention to people, I'm like, Phoebe Bridges, not oh my gosh,
Phoebe, it's
that's
okay. Phoebe,
that's a singer, right? Though I'm not
okay,
about
but
her.
Phoebe is her sad hobbit of a sister who lives under a bridge and only eats old, dried out carrots. That's Phoebe Bridgers. I think you're talking about, Phoebe Wallace,
Yes, Phoebe from what was it? Flea?
Fleabag.
Fleabag, Herschel, that girl. So she signed a deal with Amazon for like $16 million in like 2019 or something, and produced zero from it, like
Oh,
zero.
girl, get your
Okay,
coin.
yeah, right. So this conversation has been happening for a while. How the companies do this, but also how the celebrities are part of also screwing over the little man when they sign these deals and they don't really produce anything.
So,
But what I think
Alex,
is,
sorry.
mm, oh
So
no, it's okay.
a funny tie-in with Fleabag is that, and the Obamas, is that in one of the first episodes, Phoebe, her character, masturbates to a Barack Obama speech, and
Okay,
it's
so
never stopped making me laugh.
fun fact, I used to do like role playing and stuff like that on Tumblr, Glee fandom for life, okay? And I will never forget there was this viral because people would do their role playing and all sorts of characters. And there was this famous thread of someone role playing as Barack Obama who then began a love affair with Harry Styles. You
Oh my
guys.
god. Okay, Alex, I didn't know where you were going with that at first. I thought you were gonna say when I was on Tumblr, I used to masturbate to Barack Obama, and I was like,
This is
"Wow.
not premium content, okay? No.
Oh my god, yeah, this is like after hours content right now. Do not listen with children, dear
I
god."
am not that weird. Sorry, guys.
I'm so
No.
sorry. I did that. I got us off topic. That is my
Handsome
fault.
man, mind you, but I
Oh god,
respect
that voice,
Michelle
that oh,
Obama.
yes.
Okay, that walk up at the graduation for
Mm,
I think Malia. Oh, he's just so smooth. I love him. I
oh
love
god.
him.
Okay, sorry.
But just to finish this article out, it does say multiple sources told Insider they don't encounter the same challenges developing shows at other podcast platforms like Amazon Music and iHeartMedia, which have been aggressive about snapping up original projects in an effort to compete with Spotify. It's frustrating to the person familiar with Spotify's podcast operations. I've tried to hit the reset button so many times at Spotify, but I've all but given up. So I'm
Mm.
just rounding this out with saying that what's going on with Meghan and Harry is totally normal. Like the business deals are totally normal. There's absolute criticism there for that they are participating in these tactics that rich people do that do screw over the little man. But they are not the only one. They did not cost 200 people 200. Oh my gosh.
No, I know
They,
what you mean. They didn't cost everyone all of their jobs at Spotify. That doesn't make any
Exactly.
sense.
Spotify literally gutted two major of the podcast media groups they picked up, one being Grimlet, that we know actually worked on Archetypes. I think the only one that's there now is The Ringer, which of course is Bill Simmons'
Oh,
podcast
that
media
bitch.
group. Yep.
That
That
bitch.
sold in 2020, I think for like 200 million. So, and he is now a senior exec. I'm pretty sure he's in charge of like content creation and what is it, like the output, their marketing and stuff like that. And he's
Which,
also
Alex, tells us a lot about Spotify's culture, and I will say
yes.
this is just some tea that we received, we haven't confirmed any of
Mhm.
it, but someone reached out and said that they did work for Spotify about a decade ago, and, yeah, that bro culture, runs
Yes.
real hard. Joe
Yeah,
Rogan is a great fit for
great
that
fit.
company.
Bill Simmons, whatever his name is, I do not care. Loves him a
Nope.
Joe Rogan too. So I'm like I said, the nosy part of me is like, honey, release the Zoom call because I have a feeling Harry's not going to look like that. So I have a feeling it's going to be you,
Show me the receipts.
especially right, especially if you think it's acceptable. Because I think that's what I said when I initially saw what he did. I'm like, this is just so unprofessional.
It
Like,
was
and
gross.
I right, and it's like also, so if I disagree with this guy Bill, is he going to go on his podcast and start ranting about me? Because part of what we saw in that rant was that big one about like no one cares about them, all Harry does is whine, he's not even the favorite son. That whole spiel was actually not recent. That was from last year. The grifter comments and saying if he gets drunk enough he'll play the Zoom call, those were the recent comments he made last week when it was announced that they were departing. So Bill Simmons has been talking shit about Meghan and Harry specifically on his podcast for a good like year now.
And
So
it's so
again,
funny because he's like, "They're nothing, whatever." If they're nothing, why do you have to talk about them on your podcast? You have to
and
do that
pinpoint them.
because then people will actually listen and they will share it on social media.
Exactly. It was
Also,
really
I'm
great
looking
buzz for
at you,
Spotify.
Kelly Osbourne,
Gosh.
looking at
Also,
you.
we will only spend a second, but she went off about like, I hate Harry. He's horrible. All he does is whine. Oh, I'm sad and rich and I wear a Nazi costume much. Now I'm the only one who can have mental health problems. She literally said this. One, it's very clear that a big component of Harry's mental health work, and like it's pretty much like the line he goes to is like, I'm doing this so other people can openly talk about it. And then two, the Nazi thing, look, that's a conversation to have, but not from a white woman who in 2016 said that how could Donald Trump get rid of Mexicans? Who is going to clean his toilet?
Also,
Ma'am,
this is rich
ma'am.
coming from the daughter of the Prince of Darkness. So, like, pipe
Yes.
down over
Okay.
there.
And the daughter of the woman who got kicked off of her show because she said horrible things about Meghan after the Oprah interview, horrible racist things. And then when her black coworkers, on the panel tried to tell her why this was ignorant and why it was racist, she immediately started crying and said everyone was bullying her.
God,
She
she
then
is
got
so
kicked
not
off her
punk.
show.
She is
Yes, and
so
she's
not
very
punk.
much a Piers Morgan girly. So again, it's
Ugh.
just like there's 6 degrees of separation here on why a lot of these people are talking, and it's just sad though because the headline can't tell you everything and people just read headlines.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, actually, this is the perfect time, honestly, to just transition into the Meghan Markle portion of our episode, just because so much of the things we've been talking about already dovetailed nicely in. But before we get started on
Mhm.
Meghan, I need to know, Alex, what was your entry point for Meghan Markle? Was it pre Harry? Like, when did Meghan Markle get on your radar?
I was a Suits girl. I loved Suits.
Oh, wow. I've never met one of those.
I did. It was my show. I loved a lot of those corny shows, and I was a USA girl. I loved Suits. I loved her hair. I thought she was gorgeous. Her and Mike were like my main ship. And then when I found out she was part black, because fun fact, the reason why Megan had a black father on her show is because she requested to have one because she did not want her character to be white. She wanted her to be biracial like she is,
Oh,
which then resulted in her actually getting backlash. Like I remember on Twitter, because again, Tumblr and fandoms, how they were saying like reposting the tweets of people be like, "Ew, I don't like Rachel anymore. I didn't know she was black." So just saying that for people who try to say Megan has never talked about her race or accepted it until she became a royal, not true, not true. So I loved her even more after that. I really enjoyed the tag. I mean, she was the perfect kind of cringe and cheesy that spoke to my cringe and cheesy heart. She's hot.
she
Okay,
is hot.
hot. My bisexual ass was like, "Yes, ma'am." Okay, in those tight little
Yes,
pencil skirts.
happy pride, babies.
So I just like I really enjoyed her and I liked seeing where she was going. I loved her Instagram. Like Megan really was that influencer girl. Also, fun fact: did you know that Megan only had like 100,000 less followers than KP when she had her IG? So again, let's
Really?
talk about popular. Oh yes, okay. They literally were only like 100,000 followers, like difference. Okay, I will post
Wow.
both of them so we can have it for sure. But again, Megan was up there. She was really good at social media, really good at social media. So yeah, I really liked her. I enjoyed her then.
Wow. So for me, I kind of just I knew about Meghan Markle, like I saw pictures of the wedding. I didn't get into it though until December of 2022 when I decided to go on TikTok and say, well, I chose violence this morning. And I started talking about the fact that they seem to have a documentary coming out on Netflix. And I didn't understand why it was a big deal. They need to make
Yeah.
money. And oh boy, rip, rip, rip my menchies from that day. And the next day I
Yeah.
did this friends only video. I look like I have survived World War II at this point. And I'm just like, I'm never doing that shit again. And guess what I
Yeah,
did? I
you
did that
did it.
again. So I just for me, Megan was really an entry point into the British media, and then I just got sucked in because I was just fascinated with who sussing out who she is as a actual person as much as we can
Yeah.
know and how she's portrayed. So that's really what we are getting into, why she is so polarizing. And we're going to talk about Megan the human, the cringe and the corny, the myths and the media. So, kicking things off with Megan the human. As we spoke about in the Kate Middleton episode earlier this month, I think it's dangerous to put people on a pedestal as it is to vilify them. I think both extremes create a caricature that we project onto individuals, and it's dehumanizing no matter which way you go, because the
Mhm.
vilify side is just not true and it allows you to look at this person as subhuman. But also, if she's on a pedestal, you can never look at anything she does or her work because anything is viewed as an attack. So I think both stifle conversation and don't allow her to be a real person. Megan is not the devil
Yeah.
incarnate, but she also isn't perfect. She's human. She's a crunchy
She's also not an
California
angel.
girl, and it's fine. Exactly. And it's totally fine. So we're going to kick it off with the cringe and corny because I I wish I could forget about this time, but do you remember the girl boss
Yeah.
years? I do, and I hated them. So,
Yeah.
Megan, listen, Megan has made some choices in the past. She hasn't always been this like perfect progressive woman, which is okay. We
No.
evolve. That's fine. So during a
Yes.
2015 interview, she told in style, I love Ivanka Trump. I love what she's done with her company. I think she's spectacular. Like, yikes. But also, like, how many of us were, kind of pre 2015? I mean, even Ivanka and Jared were running in all those progressive New York circles and stuff.
Oh,
It was a
totally.
you know? And so she's really of the times, but it's like important to remember these things and to look at how she's, grown and changed. And yes, she did speak out against Donald Trump, but it cannot be said enough that she fell for the same stuff we all did. Like I bet she even bought Rachel Hollis's Wash Your Face. Like, you know what I mean? Do you remember Rachel Hollis? She's like,
Yeah.
"Wash your face,
Oh,
girl." And then
yeah.
she got canceled because she was like,
Yeah, she, like, made her thing about how she's like, Harriet Tubman and stuff. Oh, yeah. Oh,
"Oh,
yeah.
that was
Oh,
oh
yeah.
my
That was
god.
my intro to her.
Girl, wash your face. Girl, wash your mouth out."
Watch your mouth.
Okay, yeah. And so I think it's important to remember that like, yeah, Megan has had her missteps and she's had her cringy stuff. And before we get into her cringy, I just want to say that for Meghan, it doesn't hit the same way as a white woman does. Like, do you remember that photo where Drew Barrymore is like, "Rain," and she's like looking up like a smiling hippie that's stoned at Woodstock, and she just like
Yes.
rain is like hitting her face. It was like adorable and lovely and kooky. If Meghan Markle did that, she
Oh my
would have
god.
been raked over the coals. It would
Someone
have
would
been a
have said,
news
"Call
story.
CPS, she's on drugs or something."
Oh, there
You
definitely would have been
know?
a drug thing. It would not go over the same.
And I think too, it's interesting because I think in general it's harder for people of color to be able to move in those spaces, but I think a really big reason we see why Megan is having really struggling of being able to like cash in on these PR tactics you see a lot of people do, like a Blake Lively, Jennifer Garner, Oprah. You know what I mean? Oprah talking like, I love bread. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah, Oprah
every
really gets
day.
to she gets to exist in a different space too because in many ways she spent years with a talk show appealing to middle-aged
Exactly.
white women.
Exactly. That her talk show was for everyone, but part of the reason why it was so successful and the reason why she can move in the space that she does now and be cringy and do all these beautiful hikes and have these multiple beautiful homes and be a billionaire and it's cool is because exactly she was able to get white middle class women to like her with her show.
We also love having a token black person. Like people are like, "Well,
Yes,
Barack Obama was
exactly.
president," as if Barack Obama being president solved racism in this country. And
Which
also
is
it's telling when you can only point out like one black president.
exactly. And I mean, that's pretty much what they did with the wedding. We'll get into that. And and it's like interesting because part of the reason why I think we have the Blakes and the Jennifers, Taylor Swift, Oprah can get away with this is that because that mirage around them is still there. So they can sell their public persona and in these easily digestible, like 30-minute segments, a cute little people pop up because no one knows them beyond that or wants to know them beyond that. They just think that's who they are. You know what I mean? Like, of course, Blake Lively's always fun and smiley and sweet and cute. She can never have a bad day. She can never be rude to a waiter. It can't be true that her and Ryan may fight all the time and Ryan doesn't want her to be working to stay home with the kids. You know what I mean? Like these rumors and these quiet little talks don't really become mainstream
I
because we have
literally have
so
never heard that. I've never heard any of
exactly.
it. Yeah.
There's a lot of this stuff that gets, but you don't hear it. Like Jennifer Garner. There's many and I've heard this personally, and
Oh
I've
my
seen
god,
it
tell
from
me. Tell me
lines.
more. Tell me more.
Well, that she can be rude, that she can just be straight up rude to servers,
Yes.
that she can be a bit of a Karen with like the PTA moms, like she can be like, "What are you doing?" Like,
Oh my
and
god,
the
can you
funny thing is,
imagine
this doesn't make me
fighting?
dislike Jennifer. I kind of like her more.
Can you imagine fighting when you got home and you're like, "How did the PTA meeting go?" And you're like, "Oh my
Look,
god, I had to fight with Jennifer Gardner over the bake sale. Like,
like literally,
she wants this vegan brownie shit that Violet's gonna make, and, like, it's just not gonna sell."
yes, that is Jennifer Garner too. Like that, like crunchy, gluten-free. That is so Jennifer, and that's Megan. But Megan gets made fun of it more, and like I'm laughing at you, not with you, type of way. Like Jennifer Garner too. They forget when she got with Ben Affleck, she was the other woman to J Lo, and she also had her own man and cheated on him with Ben Affleck. I'm like, this is good PR though. They've been able to completely move past that as they should. That was years ago, but no one's gonna hold it against them like they're gonna hold it against every little thing against Megan because Megan, whether you like Megan and Harry or not, it is the fact that the brutal press while they were royals absolutely damaged their public persona. And they are constantly in defense now, trying to rebuild it and getting people to trust them and getting people to buy into their little, to their mirage, their public persona, and just that. So they're not constantly questioning what kind of people they are. Because I think the thing with Meghan and Harry is or Meghan, so much of the things that are maybe you could say are negative characteristics about her got turned into she's evil, she's a bitch, and this is all of who she is, which means that she can't authentically be a good person or authentically be cringy because to be that, you have to be sweet, you have to be innocent. And Megan's not allowed to be those things. It's like when I see headlines about say like Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds, they have like that whole thing where they make like sarcastic tweets like, oh, like here's my dumb husband, or like Blake Lively drawing like the heels on her feet and stuff like that. Like all that stuff is cute, and then you get like headlines like Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds most savage trolling moments, and I'm like rolling my eyes because that's
Ugh.
so corny. But at the same time, you're like, oh, but why can I hate on them? They're good people. They're just corny and having fun. But with Meghan and Harry, you don't get that. Oh, they're good people. They're just having a good time. Don't let me yuck their yum. But it's because they're bad people. Meghan is a
It's
bad
also
person, so
it's
she can't
also
be fun.
It's also incredibly different to have media on you and then have an
Mhm.
entire media ecosystem constructed through an agreement with the British royal family, following your every move and creating a narrative, a part of a larger narrative structure about this family. It's just an entirely different ballgame,
Yeah.
which is weird to say. You're like, it's different than being a Jennifer Gardner or an A-list actress, but it is. It's so
It's
much
so
different.
different. And it's
Yeah.
also like when people are more willing to speak out against you, whether it's true, a lie, a half truth, people are not going to be as willing to talk about, say, Ryan, what is his name? Ryan Gosling. There's rumors that he's a real fucking jerk on set, but no one's going to be willing to talk about that because people like Ryan. People are
Oh
going to
my god,
fight you
Penn
tooth
is
and
a
nail about
jerk.
that. Yeah, there's a rumor he can be like a real asshole on set. And like he
Damn.
could be like, "Oh, I'm so creative. Let's like re-change this and do this." And everyone's like,
Never meet
dude,
your
shut
heroes.
up.
Never meet your
Exactly,
heroes.
right? It's like because you're going to humanize them. And I think it's so important, key to like these parasocial relationships too, is that we only know these people at a surface level. So then we can project what we need to onto them and our friendships that we are making up in our heads with them. These like relationships. And obviously there's massive parasocial relationships with Ming that people have to the
Oh, the
stand type of
parasocial
war.
relationships are so jarring. Just having
Yeah.
got into this like niche space, people either think as a content creator, like that I am doing work on behalf of Meghan and Harry, like
Hmm.
joyfully. They're like,
Yeah.
thank you for highlighting the good. And I'm like, no, that's not. I mean, if it's a side product, that's one
Hmm.
thing, but I am not out here like a vigilante for Harry and
Exactly.
Meghan. I'm interested in media literacy. So it's very interesting the way, and then the parasocial relationships people start to have with you and your parasocial relationship with them.
Yeah.
It's just, it gets very weird. So yeah, with Meghan, like she isn't allowed to be a fully formed human. And I think it comes from both extremes, as I've said. But a lot of times it does veer into this unconscious bias with online conversation. I think the thing with Megan is that there is this unjust criticism that she receives, but it's also a problem when you can't ask any justifiable questions or have any criticism of her. When that
Hmm.
happens, people just want to defend her. So it's like the pedestal thing. But then, okay, we need to get into Megan and the banana, which is not a sentence I ever thought I would say, but I want to talk about how it's covered differently. So again, not a sentence I thought I'd utter. Sex worker brands Megan offensive. It's so good. Daily
Yeah.
Mail, February 4th, 2019. So the paragraph long headline that the Daily Mail prefers says, she has the means to help us more. Sex worker brands Megan offensive for writing messages of support on bananas during a charity visit, but others insist the messages were lovely. So basically, Megan was like inspired. This sounds very Meghan Markle. I don't know her
Yes.
personally,
Like
but she's like,
genuinely Megan.
yeah, they're, like, making up food, and she's like, "I've got an idea. Who has a Sharpie?" And she's like, "I'm gonna write, like, 'You are special, you are brave' on these bananas." It'll be so great for the girls when they are hungry to know that they are special with a
Yes.
Megan Sharpie. And so one sex worker was like, "That was offensive. She should be doing more," which I don't disagree, but also
Mhm.
there are it doesn't speak to the confinements of what more actually means and if they can actually do more as working royals. And like, when
Mhm.
is, I mean, I'm sure it's been said, but I mean, how many times do other working royals go to these events and it's the bare minimum because that's what they're allowed to do, but people aren't
Exactly.
complaining. But again, none of them just uh randomly started to write on bananas. So I guess I to some extent do understand the issue. So that's like the negative spin on it. And then there is why Duchess Meghan shared touching messages with vulnerable women during Bristol visit. This is from Ahmed Scobie. And so it talks about how royal engagements are typically planned with military precision. So Duchess Meghan, like coming up with her own idea on the fly to do something, was actually pretty inspired. And again, it's less robotic. It shows that she cares about what she is participating in. And it was an unexpected move, he writes, that touched the hearts of staff of the nonprofit, a mobile outreach van that provides support to around 240 local sex workers each year. And this is what Megan says too, and this is why she did it. She says, quote, "I saw this project this woman had started somewhere in the States on a school lunch program." Megan said, recalling the story of a canteen manager who worked at Kingston Elementary School in Virginia. On each of the bananas, she wrote an affirmation to make the kids feel empowered. It was the most incredible idea, the small gesture. So when you read it in that context, you're like, oh, she just
Yeah.
didn't suddenly think that she was going to heal the
Mhm.
the terrors of sex work with banana messages. She actually saw this as an effective tool used with, other groups of people and decided, why don't I try it myself? It's a
Exactly.
totally different story depending on how you look at it. It's either cringy or kind of sweet, if not like a little bit corny.
It's totally corny, but like you said, it's sweet. Like just where the story came from. Obviously, I'm sure the woman who was writing these messages on the banana don't have even half of the wealth that Meghan and Harry do. So obviously, the sex worker who we should listen to because she's someone who's actually going through this. I can see where she's like, "Great, thanks for the banana, but also, I great to have a home. It'd be great to have money for food and education. Maybe help me if I have any mental health issues or addiction." Like there's points there. It's like with the Spotify thing. I don't like that everyone puts it on her shoulders and everything she does has to be bad and there has to be this like negative connotation. But a lot of times there is truth in some of these criticisms. But knowing this was just something that she naturally did, like it wasn't planned, she was like, "Hey, this will be a really great moment." I think that speaks to to Meghan truly is, and it makes me sad because those little moments all but disappeared later on with her royal work. It's like she learned very quickly, you don't go off script, whether it's because you might get in trouble within the system or the press is going to spin it against you.
I totally agree. And piggybacking off your point about doing more, it reminds me of Prince William's homelessness initiative where sorry. I know.
Yeah.
Apparently, he's saying that he's gonna use some of one of the duchies, I think Cornwall,
Yeah.
to build housing for people, which is again, it's wonderful, but it doesn't actually address the systemic issue, which is why did these people get in this situation in the first place?
Yeah.
Why is housing so unaffordable? Why are wages stagnant? Why can't people get work? It goes
Hmm.
on and on. So it sounds like a really good gesture, but it doesn't actually structurally change anything. So I just think that's like an interesting
Yeah.
parallel about
Well,
what they could be doing.
and real quick, too, I think what's interesting about that is one, the Daily Mail is not going to track down a homeless person and ask them if they don't like this project and why they don't like it and give them that moment to speak on it. So there's a huge difference there. And I think, too, with William, is a lot of this is a lot more calculated. Well, it is calculated. We are hearing from Meghan that was just kind of like she thought of it in that moment. She thought it'd be sweet, so she did it. William, for a good reason, because this is a big project, it's not just writing nice messages on a banana, has planned this out. But what I find interesting though is in this rollout, he's talking about this like he's reinventing the wheel. He's doing something new, never been done before. But when you look it up, 2014, they were trying to force Charles to build social homes and at least meet the bare minimum requirement. And he refused and he cut it out. So it's like William isn't doing something new. He's doing something the government at one point said they had to do, but they decided to pretty much lobby and say, no,
Ah,
that's not going to happen.
good
We're not going to
spin.
do it. Right? So it's like William is kind of a fuck you to his dad. I'm wondering if this is going to get out because he's pretty much doing something his dad cut off, which is still great for William. But to me, it's insidious. It's like where
Let's
I get to hear where they're like saying about Meghan and the bananas. I'm like, you could do more. You're doing something you should have always been doing, but you guys opt out of to legally do. And now you're making it sound like you're doing something big and huge that's never been done before. I don't like that. And like you said, because in that same announcement, he's talking about how, the government, the councils, and the charities need to be doing more to stop this problem when we actually could stop it. Like there is a solution to this. And then goes on to say two paragraphs later, when asked about policy, I don't want to get into government policy. That pisses me off.
It's really towing the line. It's towing the line.
Exactly. The way to end all of this is government policy, but you don't want to talk about it, but you
Nope.
want to praise me for building maybe 100 social homes. It's just like, I'll give you credit where it's due, but I'm not going to give you the credit you actually want because you're not doing what you're trying to sell.
Yeah.
It's not going to have that impact. But
Yeah, I,
yes.
I totally agree. So looking at the time here, we have so much to talk about and we want to give you guys the best episode. So as a little treat, we're gonna make this a two-parter. So come
Yes.
back and listen to part 2 where we get more into Meghan, the monarchy, the media, and more.
Oh, yes.
Stay tuned.